What up, what up, what up? Yes, we are back after weeks of being gone. Welcome to Two Dudes and a Mexican. I'm your host, Peter Soprano. Out there in cyber world is my main man, co-host, the resident Mexican, David Quinones.
Órale, mi gente.
And like I said, it's been a long time, but we can finally say sports is officially back. And we haven't been able to say that for about 4 months. So it's good to talk to everybody out there in the cyber world. Good to talk to David on the show again. Vic will be back next week, so we'll have him back on there next week. But Dave, we have sports back. Are you excited? Are you ready?
Yeah, of course, man. Shit, like with this COVID shit happening. I mean, you kidding me, man? I mean, like we're desperate to do something. We're desperate to have some entertainment. I mean, I know we can't go to these sporting events, but at least we can gather with our friends, our families. Have a couple of beers, have a couple of drinks, and at least enjoy. Some of American culture. I like that. Like we like to say, bro.
Yeah.
This is part of American culture. Our sports. Don't take away our sports.
Yeah, it's the getaway for people. It's the way to distract people from the crazy everyday life. Like our society needs sports. But with that said, should we, with all the stuff that's going around, we don't have a cure, we don't have a vaccine yet for COVID-19. Should we be playing football right now? Or should we be getting ready to play football right now?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think I said it from the beginning, at least football has an advantage. Mm-hmm. Why do they have an advantage? Because all these sports are going before them.
Yep.
Hockey, basketball, baseball. They're seeing at least what works, what mm-hmm. doesn't work, and at least they can curtail their plan going forward to what's going to be implemented to try to get this football season going now. You see, there's players opting out for different reasons. I mean, that's going to happen. So, obviously players are going to have their concerns depending on what's happening in their personal lives. Whether it's a family member that's high risk, or
new baby,
stuff like babies and all that stuff. Yeah. So listen, it's going to be tough. I mean, listen, I think that if you have a good plan in place, and you're doing your due diligence, you have a plan A, you have a plan B, you have a plan C, because things are going to go wrong. You see it. I mean, there's no way to hide from a virus. Obviously, testing is going to be huge.
Yeah.
Even the governor from New Jersey has preached that. Testing. That's going to be huge.
Exactly.
So if they can have something in place, a good protocol, and again, plan A to plan Z, listen, as long as they're taking those steps in order to protect the players and obviously protect people by, unfortunately, not having them at these sporting events.
Yeah.
Listen, I definitely think they definitely could get this season undergoing. And listen, let's be honest here. When it comes to sports, especially football, it's economy, man.
Yeah, definitely. So, it's the biggest sport in the United States.
It doesn't go down. Yeah, a lot of money goes down.
You got billions of dollars that are at stake. Like this isn't nothing that's small. So, with that being said, and we saw that the NBA is starting right now. They've gone through 2 cycles in the past week or so with no testing positive. They're in a bubble in what is actually a high risk state in Florida. You also have, in other sports, you got MLS also playing down there in Orlando. They aren't having any positive tests right now. You got, right now, hockey starting up, and their first game, so it's going right into the playoffs on the weekend. They haven't had any tests. All these places have bubbles. It's kind of hard to do a bubble with the NFL, with not only because of so many teams, but it's just hard because of how they play each other. They got to go from different area to different area. And you got to find, like, for example, in baseball, I think they could do a bubble. Because in Arizona, you got 10 fields and you got Chase Fields. So you can have different fields and have different games. Florida, we know that's spring training for numerous teams. They got a bunch of different fields. So, but there isn't a state that has, like, 10 football stadiums or anything like that where you can play that many games. Do you think that the NFL can be successful without having a bubble?
Listen, I think anything's possible. Like I said, it all depends on what the plan is. If everybody that's going to be playing is going to stick to that plan, mm-hmm. and what are the contingency plans to that? Yeah. Because again, you'd be naive to think that. And again, I'm going to knock on wood right now. Listen, you'd be naive to think that nobody's going to test positive during the NBA season.
Exactly.
Nobody's going to test positive during the MLB season. Nobody's going to test positive during the hockey season.
Yeah.
I think it's going to happen. It's going to happen in every sport. What is your contingency plan after that?
Yeah.
And how can you, isolate that issue and keep on going with the season?
Yeah.
So, listen, I think it definitely is possible. And it's crazy because, these things are working for these sports. I mean, who would have thought, in Florida where, all these cases are rising, it's still working for the NBA.
Yeah,
I mean,
and MLS.
And MLS. So, I mean, maybe the that bubble, program will work. But like you said, I agree. I don't know if it would work with the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought that?
Especially because of the contact.
Who would have thought that social distancing and wearing a mask actually works? Maybe some people's actually tried. But I agree. I agree with you. I think that anything is possible, and I also think if you do take out the Marlins out of the situation, because obviously that's an abnormal thing that's happened over there with all their players. If you take that out of the situation, we've been playing for a full week right now, and we've only had Juan Soto from the first game, and then we had a couple of Reds. They said it may be a possible positive, and they have one that definitely was a positive. So in a full week, it's pretty good that we've only had really like 2 or 3 players other than the Marlins situation. So I think they've actually done a really good job with it, to be honest.
I agree. I think they have, and you talk about outbreaks, right? This thing's spreading like wildfire, and they've definitely done a good job, like I said, with testing, with making sure they're implementing the right steps in order to keep every player safe, and try to vet every player, so to speak, before these games are being played. But I like what the MLB is doing. Listen, how many Marlins from the team tested positive?
Like 18,
and
I think. Able
to, but they're still able to go forward with the season.
Yeah. I
like the flexibility by these teams. They know what this season is about. It's not your normal season. It is going to be different. I definitely give props, to the Yankees organization, man, for, just taking a game and saying, all right, let's go to Baltimore.
Yeah.
Let's go play 2 games now.
Exactly.
I mean, listen, but it's great because, they're setting a good example for the MLB,
mm-hmm.
For other teams to say, listen, you got to be flexible. In order for this season, to get to 60 games, to get through this, stuff is going to happen. You're going to have to acclimate. You're going to have to just, change your way and just keep going with the season. So.
And I'll give MLB credit for one more thing. When they changed the schedule to have the East play the East, the West play the West, it put everybody in the same region, in the same area, so that it's easy to make a switch, something like this. If they were scheduled to play the Los Angeles Angels next, they couldn't just switch at a drop of a dime and go over there and go 3,000 feet to the other side of the country and do it. But because now they're playing the Baltimore Orioles instead of the Philadelphia Phillies, it's just a quick day trip. So because they made that difference and they made that change in the schedule, it really allowed a lot of flexibility where you can do something like that. But we'll talk a little bit more about the Marlins and the MLB in a second. But to get to actual real football action and real football news, Joey Bosa is now the highest paid player per year as a defensive player for defensive players, with $27 million a year as he gets his new contract, a 4-year extension. And it's just, to me, it's just crazy to think that a defensive player is making $27 million a year. When I remember when we used to say $20 million was a lot for a quarterback. And then quarterbacks flew by that. Now they're making $30-35 million. And defensive players are making $27 million. And now he's only one of 6 players. Well, actually, he's one of 8 players to be now making over $20 million as a defensive player, but he is the highest per year. First, does he deserve it? And 2, how can you afford to pay that much for a quarterback? Now, they don't because they got a rookie, but how can you pay that much to a defensive player and a quarterback?
Yeah, listen, we were talking about this before the show. Listen, I'm with you, man. I don't know if he deserves that much money. But like I told you, man, it's just like houses. I mean, the market dictates what you're going to get. The market dictates how much you're going to pay for a house. The market dictates how much you're going to pay for a player. And that's what they thought they needed to pay, especially after, Aaron Donald got what he got.
Myles Garrett,
Khalil Mack.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what happens when you have a market, man. And the market's going to dictate what that next player's going to get.
Chris Jones just got his big deal.
Oh my gosh! So I mean, again, I'm with you. I don't know if he deserves it, and I don't know. Yeah, you're right. I don't know how they're going to be able to afford. I mean, if you look at the stats, they're pretty high up there. I mean, they're definitely top 5. I think he averaged like 0.8 sacks per game, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's almost one, sack
unbelievable,
per game.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. So he's young. He's only 25 years old.
Yeah.
He comes from a family that, his brother, look, he's a beast too. So, I think that they have one of the best defensive weapons, in the league, signed up for a while. You keep them happy. So I don't know how they're going to afford it. But hey, I guess it is what it is. And like I said, the market's going to dictate that, and that's what the market dictated for Joey Bosa.
I think that when we talk about paying a defensive player that much and then how they're going to pay the quarterback, I don't think it's financially responsible that you can do it. So I think most of the people that did get paid, they're on a team where their quarterback is still on a small contract. So, for example, Mahomes is going to be getting his $40 million in a couple years. This year, he's making like $800,000. Next year, he jumps up to 20-something million. And then the year after that, then he jumps into 30s and 40s or whatever. So they pretty much have a couple years where they can manage their cap with Chris Jones making $20 million too on defense. And then after that, then everything's going to blow over. So they have to hope that the cap jumps up enough to where it can make up where they can pay those 2 players. So I think that's the only way you can work it out right now. You have to pretty much get a capologist and make sure that you're paying one person a little amount while you're paying the defensive player. And then when the quarterback gets paid, then that defensive player is probably going to have to be gone by then or cut. So, he got a 4-year extension, so the total is a 5-year deal. They drafted a rookie quarterback, so he's going to be getting paid in 5 years. So that 5th year is probably going to be knocked off at some point. Unless the cap goes way up, that's probably what's going to have to happen. So I don't know what they're going to do, but I don't know if I would have paid him that much, but I understand it. I go back to what the Dallas Cowboys did with Tyron Smith, their left tackle. At the time, they paid him, I think it was $12 million. Everybody said that's a lot to pay him, and now tackles are making $20 million. Like, it's tackles that aren't as good as him are making $20 million. Laramie Tunsil made up $20 million last year. He's going to be making $20 million. So now it looks like a great deal. At the time, it was crazy. So just like now, it looks like a crazy deal to pay Mahomes $40-50 million. Quarterbacks are probably going to pass them in 5-6 years. So
that's crazy.
Yeah. So you know what? I agree. I think it may be too much for them, but they had to do it. So that's what I'm going to go with. Moving on to, we touched on the Marlins earlier in baseball. 18 of their players out of their 30-man roster got infected with this virus. Whether they went to a strip club in Atlanta the week before, whether it was bar hopping, something happened, obviously, where a lot of these guys were together or partying together, and everybody seemed to get infected. And it seems to be continuing every day. It is slowing down now, but even one person got said positive today at 18. One, what do you do with the Marlins? And two, we kind of touched on this earlier, that one team can't really break it down, but how does baseball continue on with pretty much a team that can't play right now?
Yeah, listen, it's like I said, it's in with the planning. So, is there other players, a bank of players where they could pull from?
Yeah.
Or maybe even, they're either AAA affiliate or another affiliate where they could pull
there's
players.
No minor league games, might as well.
So, listen, I would think that's the only thing they can do until they clear their players COVID-free.
Yeah.
Like I said, I just think that, this is going to happen. Maybe not as much and, as many players as like the Marlins. But, again, to think that this won't happen to another team, at least maybe one or two or a couple of players, I think is naive. Now, you're right. I know an undisclosed, player was quoted as saying that, it's the players, who can't control themselves. Especially when they're on the road.
Yeah.
When they talking about, like you said, going to bars, going to strip clubs, expose yourself to more people. It's the player's responsibility.
Yeah.
So who knows, what's being implemented out there, what rules are being placed for these players. That's another thing they got to look at as well, because I mean, they're not in a bubble, so to speak, but you got to have rules. I mean, without rules, it's just going to be foolish, I think, and unresponsible, especially if you're letting your players do whatever the hell they want, and now they're exposing themselves to other people. And now look, you got how many 18 Marlins all testing positive. So they definitely have to revisit that. But listen, I think the MLB season can go on. I mean, it would suck to eliminate a team, let's say, if there was an outbreak for the whole team. But I think MLB, like you said, has done a good job in terms of scheduling, in terms of implementing a plan, in place, and then a plan after that, and a plan after that. So I think they can keep going forward with the season. Again, people just have to be more careful. Players have to be more careful. And listen, if you put a mask on, I know some people mock it, but hey, you're just adding another step. You know what I'm saying, for that safety net. So there's nothing wrong with that, I think.
So two things. Well, first, I'll get out a couple points that I wanted to make. Is that they have 18 players that are out, but every team had a 60-man pool, so they should have enough to still go on. You have the 40-man roster, so half of that's killed, but you still have another 20 guys that you can throw on there. So they should be still good, that they should be able to continue right now. And maybe a bunch of young players, but you know what? That team had a bunch of young players anyway. They didn't really have too many big-time stars, but I think they can continue with that. But it's just, I've been pretty good on Rob Manfred on how he's been doing it. A lot of people have been very hard on him, but I've been okay with him. The one thing I will really get on him for, though, is how do you leave the decision in the players' hands and the team's hands to decide if they're going to play with a positive test? On Sunday, 3 players tested positive and they knew about it. They met as a team and they decided to play. There is no way that should have been up to them. As soon as those players tested positive, MLB should have been alerted about it. And once they see that there's 3 people that automatically tested positive, they know that something's wrong. They should have shut it down immediately. There's no way that they should have let the team decide that. They went out there, and luckily so far no Phillies have got the virus after that. But we see how much it's spread on the field with your own teammates being in the same clubhouse.
Yeah, listen, I agree. I mean, he needs to have... Listen, MLB needs to have more oversight. It's kind of a reflection of our country, right? Like how President Trump said, all right, listen, I'm going to let, each state make the decisions. You have to have more oversight. Because you have to have more consistency over what's happening throughout the league. You can't just have one team doing one thing and another team doing another thing. That makes no effing sense. I mean, we all got to be consistent in all the rules, all the steps that we're taking, especially to keep players safe. And even if it's just an extra step, hey, fuck it. I mean, listen, if you have to cancel a game because there's too many question marks, there's 2 red flags, it's just one game. That's it. It can be made up. It can be made up as a double header. It can be made up down, further down the line. But listen, I definitely agree with that one. I mean, again, you got to have more oversight of that. You got to have more control because that's the only way that each team across Major League Baseball is going to be consistent on what's going on, especially if something like this happens.
Yeah, I completely agree. So we got our off-the-field stuff for COVID for football, and we got one on-the-field stuff for the contracts. We got the off-field with COVID with baseball. We got to have something with on-the-field. I don't know if you were watching, but last night all hell broke loose with the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Houston Astros, as Joe Kelly threw a pitch behind Bregman, then he threw a pitch over Correa's head, and then as he was going to the dugout after he struck him out, he kind of made a face saying he was whining and everything like that, and both benches clear and everything. No punches thrown or anything, but Kelly was suspended for 8 games today, which is the equivalent to a 22-game suspension if it was 162 games. So even like big-time reporters, Ken Rosenthal, was like, it's kind of harsh for that, to suspend him that many games. And everybody started posting the hashtag Free Kelly today or Free Joe Kelly. Everybody was behind him. He was a national hero for what he did because he got more of a punishment than the actual cheaters in Houston got. So what do you think about the suspension? Do you think it was too harsh? Do you think Are you fine if it was a 0-game suspension? What would you have done?
Yeah, I think it was a little too harsh. I mean, I know that, obviously these teams, have a rivalry now, especially with, last year's World Series.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's going to be throwing at them. They've been hit like 6 times already.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I know. I think they're citing that, Kelly had thrown, I think to Tyler Austin, when he was with the Yankees.
Yeah.
Back in that incited like a fight. So,
yeah.
I mean, I guess they're going back to precedents and saying, oh, he incited this. He was mocking Correa, as he went back. Listen, I think it is too harsh. I think they're trying to make a point.
Yeah.
With suspension. So,
but that comes back to bite them because they're saying that you're being harsh now. You let the Astros go.
Yeah, I think they're doing. I think they're putting, too much emphasis on this. With Kelly. So I definitely think it was too harsh of a punishment. So.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I would maybe fine him because maybe fining him would mean a lot more this year because they're not getting their full pay. So a fine, I think, would mean more this year than it would in a normal year. But to suspend them that many games, the equivalent of 22, 23 games, that's just ridiculous to me. So I don't think you should have did that. And like I said, you're making it look like you're punishing him more than you punish somebody that actually cheated to win your championship, to win your World Series of your sport. So to me, it just doesn't sit right to me. But, I mean, we'll see what happens. Like, obviously, he's going to appeal the suspension. The Dodgers have already announced that. And I assume it's going to cut down a couple games, maybe to 5 or 6 games. So we'll see what happens with that. But the season got off to a start. We didn't really get a chance to get off to it, to do a show before the year started. But we got a week of data now to deal with. Who's going to be a World Series? First of all, who's going to meet in the World Series and who's going to be a World Series champion?
Yeah, man, that's a good one. I mean, it's still early. If I had to have some early picks,
we gotta have something. We gotta have something written down.
Yeah, I mean, listen, these are early picks, obviously, just because again, the season just started, so it's still fresh. There's still a good amount of games to be played, but I mean, if I had to pick 2 teams now, I'd pick the Dodgers and the Yankees. I think they have the. I know they're kind of easy picks, but on the AL side, I mean, the Yankees offense just looks, that lineup 1 through 9. I mean, it's just beast after beast after beast that you're gonna have to deal with.
Yeah.
Obviously, they got Gerald Cole in the offseason. They lost Severino, but they still have a pretty good, pitching rotation. Their bullpen's always been solid, and I think it's going to still be solid this year. With the Dodgers, it's that Dodger offense, man. Closest offense, that comes closest to the Yankees. Pitching, I think, is going to be good for them as well. Obviously, they're dealing with some issues, especially with Kershaw. We'll see how Price turns out. But if I had to pick 2 teams right now, I'd have to go with the Dodgers and the Yankees. So, and who wins it? I guess I'll say the Yankees, man. But again, it's early, so.
Well, I was gonna say that Price decided to opt out, but I know Mark Hinkes decided to opt out. And he came back today, so you never know if Price is gonna come back too. So
He could very well. Who knows? I mean, it's just like anything else, man. You can see your team. You can be on the sidelines, and you can see your team there and say, "Shit,
yeah,
my team's right there. I'm not helping them. Fuck it, let's do it."
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what Mark Hinkes did. He just said he misses playing baseball. He's been playing for so many years, and he's been sitting at home watching for the whole week, and he's like, "No, I got to get back at it." So he decided to come back today. So I would like to pick a team to beat the Yankees. If I was going to pick a team to beat the Yankees, I'll pick the Tampa Bay Rays, just because I think they have better pitching. I question the Yankees starting pitching. I think they have great starters, but I think they have great relievers, but I don't like their starters after Garrett Cole. I'm not a big fan of Tanaka because he had a bad year last year. Severino, like you said, is gone. I just don't like the depth of their starting pitcher. I think they're 1 pitcher deep, and I don't think that's good enough to win a World Series. But their hitting is just so good, I think they can just bash teams to death. That's why I said the only team I think that can beat them is Tampa Bay, because Tampa Bay has 1 to 3 with Morton and Glasnow and Snell, And I think they even have another young pitcher that they have up there that's pretty good. So they can go like 3-4 deep with good starting pitching. And if they can just slow that offense down, we may see them start to get frustrated because we know how playoffs goes when you get a couple strikeouts going. And is there low scoring games? There's much more low scoring games in the playoffs. So if I had to pick a team, I would pick Tampa Bay to beat them. But I think the Yankees will probably make a trade at the deadline for a pitcher and find a way to get into the World Series. On the NL side, I'm actually going to go with the Atlanta Braves because I think the Braves and the Dodgers are the two best teams in the NL. And I think that even though they should have met probably last year in the NLCS last year, they both got beat by the Nationals who got hot. I think the year later, they can pick up, obviously, the Dodgers made their big trade for Mookie Betts. The Braves have their hitting. I think they're probably going to make a trade for a pitcher to go with Soroka and Fried with their starting rotation. So I think they have the best two overall teams. If I had to pick a sleeper underdog, it'll be the Cubs. But I think it'll be the Braves in the World Series versus the Yankees. And to pick a winner, that's a tough one. I don't want to seem like a homer, but I don't think. Listen, I think it depends on what pitcher they trade for. Because I got the Yankees trading for a pitcher and the Braves traded for a pitcher. So I'm going to go right now and say the Yankees. Just because I think their power, they're used to having the DH. They're used to being on the big spotlight. The Braves haven't gotten out of the first round in years. The Yankees have at least gotten to the ALCS. They've progressed. So it's almost like they're building and building to get to the World Series. The Braves haven't made that step yet. So I think this will be the Braves' first step to try to get up and get into the World Series. The Yankees are more used to it, more used to the spotlight. So I think the Yankees over the Braves in the World Series. So we also got something else coming back. The NBA Finals will be starting tomorrow. We're taping this real late at night. So literally they're starting probably about 12 hours or 24 hours from now, less than 24 hours from now. Who do you have first getting to the NBA Finals and winning the NBA Finals?
That's a good question, man. Listen, I'm going to stick to my guns here. I know we've had discussions. I forgot who picked the Sixers. I picked
the Sixers back then.
You picked the Sixers. Listen,
I think you had picked the Rockets too.
No, so I'm a big believer in Giannis, man. So I'm a big believer in Giannis, man. I think he's amazing. I think, in my head, he is, the second best player, in the NBA. So I'm going to go with the Milwaukee Bucks. And on the Western Conference side, that one's tough too, man. But I'm going to go with. I hate to say this, man, but the LA Lakers.
Oh, my God.
I'm going to go with the Lakers.
All right, we're not going to have another show for a while now. God, the Lakers.
I just think that, with that two tandem, I think injuries are going to play a huge role. I'm telling you right now, I think I told you, about baseball. I think we're going to have more injuries, too, with the NBA. It's going to be tough, especially coming off, that big layoff. But, I'm going to go with the Bucks and the Lakers, and I'm going to go with the Bucks winning it all. How about that?
All right.
Maybe that'll make it a little better for you. So, Giannis gets his first championship. Again, in this awkward NBA season that had to go, stop, and now go again.
Very awkward.
I'm having Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks on top.
Like, this is the most awkward situation because you got baseball coming back. They're coming back. They're going to have 16 teams in the playoffs. That's a good even amount. You know that. You got the NHL. They're coming back 24 teams. They're having an extra first round. That's even amount of teams. You're fine. But basketball has come back with 22 teams, and it's uneven with the Western Conference teams and the Eastern Conference teams. So it just makes it very weird. So there's only one Eastern Conference team that can get into the playoffs right now. That there's only 9 teams playing, but there's like, but you have all these teams out in the West that are fighting for two spots at the bottom. So it's so weird to me that they just pick and choose who to bring back for this extra game. So that's the weirdest part. So in this weird situation, I agree with you with Giannis. I like him and Milwaukee to come out the East. Even though I am a big fan, I picked the Sixers at the start of the year, and I still think the Sixers are a legit threat. And another team, I think that's a legit threat that nobody's talking about is the Boston Celtics. 2 years ago, without Kyrie, we saw them get to Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals. and now you're adding somebody like Kemba Walker, who's a great player. You got a completely healthy Gordon Hayward. I think Boston can really sneak up on somebody if they're given a chance. So I like them as sleepers, but I will go with Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks. I think last year prepped them to get ready to get to the finals, and now I think they make that last step to get to the finals. But out west, I'm actually going to go with the LA Clippers. I think that when you compare the Clippers and the Lakers, Davis and LeBron may be better as a twosome than George and Kawhi. But I think after those two, and I think they're close, but after those two groups, I think all the best players lie with the Clippers, whether it's Lou Williams or whether it's Patrick Beverly or whether it's Marcus Morris, and then whether you go down to Montrezl Harrell. The Lakers, all they have extra is Kuzma. That's it. So Rondo's going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks, so you don't even have his defense there, which is playoff Rondo coming back. So it's a weird situation in LA right now, to where you're depending on J.R. Smith and Dion Waiters, two guys that are completely out of their minds. So I have no idea how that's going to work out, because we already saw the last time J.R. Smith and LeBron was on the same team what happened. So it created a meme that still goes on today. So who knows what's going to happen in that situation. So I'm going to go with the team that I think is a better defensive team and better overall team, and go with the Clippers. And then it's Clippers versus Milwaukee. I'm going to go with the Clippers. I think Kawhi Leonard will win back-to-back championships in each conference. This will be his third championship with a third different team. The only person to do that. Now, I will say this: him and LeBron are the two people that this is their chance to win 3 championships with 3 different teams, and that just doesn't happen. I think it would be the first time it's ever happened, and they both have a chance to do it. I gotta go with Kawhi right now. He's the guy that when big games are on the line, I'd rather have Kawhi on my team than any other player in the league right now. So I got to go with the Clippers.
Best player in the NBA, man, in my opinion.
So with that said, like I said, we're finally back for sports. We will try to get to you now more often, get everybody together. We'll pick a day and then let you guys know whether it's Monday, Wednesday, whatever. But we'll let you guys know when we're back. We're going to be back every week. And hopefully we will have Vic on next week so we can get his picks right before. He's going to have an advantage over us because he gets to wait another week to see who does better now. Well, somebody's going to get caught with COVID and get taken out from our teams, and then we're going to be screwed. So, so shout out to Vic. So we will. Shout out to Vic. So we will catch you guys next week on Two Dudes and a Mexican. Go subscribe on Spotify. Go subscribe on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, all of them. Just subscribe. Tell your friends to subscribe. And we will catch you next week, guys. Peace out.
Hola de